אתה בית נזר?
What's your name? Chama. Yeah, I wanted to mention to you about the chumash. I owe you a chumash.
Oh, yeah, okay, we get to swap the one.
That's right. I owe you one. So remind me before you do. I'll show you how to get it. Yeah. Okay. Very good. So please sign in. Everyone's got the sign in. See what we're going in. Okay. Parsha Chayei, page 106. Parsha Chayei is the fifth parsha in the first book in celebrations. In the first book of the Torah, the fifth parsha is Chayei, and Chayei is all about the passing away of Sarah, even though it says a little different. It says Chayei Sarah. What does Chayei mean? Life. And how do you understand? She's dying. We call it the life. Is the concept that there's this deep belief, of course, in the hereafter. There's deep belief in eternity. There's deep belief in that life continues on, and we call it in the Gemara tzadikim nikroim chayim afilu b'mitatan. Tzadikim are called alive even after they're gone. Rishoyim, evil people. Nikroim making are called dead. Afilu b'chayei, even while they're alive. So the basic idea, of course, is that being alive is more than breathing. Being alive is more than eating ice cream. Being alive is more than just taking a stroll or going to a ball game. Being alive means, are you productive? Are you active? Are you contributing? Are you achieving? Are you growing? That's what life is all about. This gift of life is therefore understood by those that take advantage of it and do what you're supposed to do in this life, that they're going to make a great achievement and move forward, and their lives really never end. And they continue on beyond into the hereafter, the world to come, Olam Haba, Gan Eden, and we don't know much about it except to understand that whenever you feel spiritual moments in the world, you're getting a taste of the world to come. One of the tastes of the world to come is Shabbat. But you know that. Okay. I know you know that, don't you know that? One of the tastes is Shabbat. Shabbat me'ein olam haba. It's a song. Me'ein olam haba. Shabbat me'enucha. Me'ein olam haba. Shabbat me'enucha. Shabbat is a taste of the world to come. The joy of the Shabbat is the joy of the cessation of all the physicalities to a great degree of this world, and really just honing in on and trying to concentrate, close your eyes a little bit, and appreciate the spirituality of Hashem's spirituality that's going to grip us into this world. We often say a number. We say 1/60th of the 1/60th of the world to come is this world. Is Shabbat. Shabbat, we want to taste 1/60th. Now, Chazal are preoccupied with this 1/60th stuff. I'm not exactly sure how it works, but basically we say that if, let's say, a person is asleep, sleeping is 1/60th of death. We can understand that. One other thing, 1/60th, is that if, let's say, you were to visit the sick, when you visit, and it's a positive visit, God willing, we talked about last week, so then you take 1/60th of the illness away, and you reduce the illness or the pain of the suffering person. If, let's say, a drop of non-kosher soup, a drop of non-kosher soup falls into a pot of kosher soup, and the drop is less than 1/60th of the sum total of the pot, then that less than 1/60th is absorbed and is not felt or tasted, and therefore the whole thing becomes kosher. So 1/60th of, I mean, it sounds a little funny, but I mean 1/60th of, let's say, some non-kosher animal soup, and it falls into chicken soup, right? But it's less than 1/60th, right? Batel b'shishim, correct? It's nullified within 60, and the whole pot is kosher. A little more than 1/60th gives off a flavor, and you'll taste that flavor. So said the Chazal, and therefore the whole pot becomes non-kosher. Again, maybe our Chazal, maybe the Gemara were scientists. Why did they come up with the 1/60th and all these matters? I don't understand completely, but this is how we understand what's called a taste or a flavor. So if a flavor of non-kosher gives off within 60, so the flavor of death is tasting within 1/60th of sleeping. In the same way, if you want to share a perspective of the world to come, so 1/60th on Shabbat, you'll feel 1/60th of what it means to have the beauty of spirituality closest to Hashem. So the death of Sarah is, of course, coming upon the heels of last week's parsha, which was the Akedah, which was where Avram brought his son Yitzchak to the sacrifice, to the altar, and was told by God to kill him and slaughter him and offer him up as an offering to Hashem. He passed the test by virtue of his complete willingness to do what Hashem said, and therefore he was now known as the absolute complete Atoya Dati. Now I know, says Hashem, Ki Yireh Elokim Atah, that you truly fear God. Which is interesting. We put it in perspective last week, and we said that fact of the matter is that those first 9 tests that he took, and I passed out the sheet on it, and I think we sent that on the email as well. So you should really know some of those 10 tests, if not all of them, and you really should know them. And for as difficult as all first 9 were, including giving his life in the Kivsha Nation in the burning furnace at the first start of the first test, nevertheless, we learned from here that those first 9 would have meant nothing had he not passed the 10th test. Which teaches us what? That in this world, it's a tough world. And you got to be tough to handle it and make it. And everyone in this room, including myself, has our challenges. Our personal lives, our personal issues, things we go through every day. Some of them are more serious and less serious. Nobody has no challenge. Ain't such thing in the world. If that's the case, we need to know that we need to be strong. We also need to know how to discern truth from falsehood. Avram had that job. How did he know that God really wanted him to kill his son? I mean, if your father came up to you tomorrow and said, God told me to kill you, he'd be arrested for child abuse, right? And how do you know what's the truth here? But the basic idea is, of course, you have to have that brilliance of understanding of Hashem to determine truth. And we talked about that last week as, can you understand something to be true, even if you don't understand it, or it doesn't sound true? That's what I have said. The point is that you don't understand it means that I don't understand why this is necessary. But my lack of understanding in this case is worse. My lack of understanding is what you're doing is actually to the contrary of what I've been taught. That's my problem. And we all have these issues again. And I think it's important for all of us to personalize this and think about it. And take a moment to think about our own personal lives and the challenges we face and the difficulties. And again, the answer is you need to discern truth. But you also need to be tough and strong in order to really, really be on top of yourself and your growth and to live right. There's no such thing as living right without being strong and being tough in handling situations. Okay. And so, upon the heel of this, our Sarah Imenu, our mother Sarah, passes away. Now, would someone read the first passage and tell me how old Sarah was when she passed away? 127. 127. This 127 is important because how old was Sarah miraculously when she had her baby Yitzchak? 90.
90.
90. Avram was 100, right?
Yes.
Okay. If she was 90 when her baby was born, now her baby is how old when he brought to the sacrifice?
37.
37. She's not a baby. He's a man. And he could have easily told his father to go jump in the lake. And there were lots of kids that do that. At 37, 27, 17, 14, and 11. There are 11-year-olds that tell their fathers to jump in the lake, you know? So this is certainly a well-trained son who has an understanding of truth, and he's certainly not brainwashed. I mean, he could have easily run away. So we get an idea here of the greatness of Yitzchak, because Avram was 137, Yitzchak is 37, and Sarah was 127, 90 years older than her son, and she passes away. So Chazal want to talk about it in terms of, thank you, Chazal want to talk about it in terms of the connection between the Akedah, where Avram nearly killed Yitzchak, and Sarah's passing, to suggest that the moment Sarah heard that what was going to be, well, she wasn't privy to this whole thing, but then they say when the Sultan came and the Sultan told her, and then she heard of this, and she had my child. I waited 90 years to have him. Now he's going to be killed by his father. What's going on here? And she dies. So, in terms of understanding this truth, the question arises: Avram had faith, Yitzchak had faith. What about Sarah's faith? It seems what?
It looks like she didn't have faith, but
It looks that way. So we're going to answer this question. I want to answer it right now because I think there's a lot of things we can say on it, and that's not really my focus for tonight. But I want to bring it out there, and I want you to think about it, and try to understand it in the following way. How would you answer the question? The question is, how can we say that Avram had no faith, had great faith, Yitzchak had great faith, and Sarah did not? Of course, you could answer and say, well, Sarah didn't. But that's not very smart. That's not very smart at all. That's not creative. That's not imaginative. That's not thinking. Anybody can say that. And our belief is that our ancestors were great people. So we have to really think about, understand what is Sarah really going through that causes her passing. And we'll talk about that. But, and so keep in mind, and let's see, we maybe answer it at the end. But for now, our concern is that with Sarah's passing, the first of our mothers has passed away, and we're moving on in history. And moving on in history, we really need to maybe turn back a little bit and look at what's been happening up until now. So let's figure this. Up until now, we learned the first 4 portions of Bereshit, of the beginning. We learned about the creation of the world. We learned about Adam and Eve. We learned about Cain and Abel. And we learned about Noah and the flood. And most of these learnings in these first 2 portions, Bereshit and Noah, were really not very positive. We said that the world in its first 2,000 years was an existence of tohu vavohu. What is tohu vavohu? Emptiness and nothingness. To describe that better is the way the world really was before it even started. So let's go back to the very first page of the Torah, page 2, where it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And would someone please tell me, or read the second passage and tell me what the second passage says.
and the earth was astonishingly empty, with darkness upon the surface of the deep.
Right, so the earth is astonishingly empty. Now, I'm not really sure how to, I'm not sure I agree with that kind of translation. Let's just say it was empty. Let's say it was unformed. Let's say it was
Wasteland.
that's a good one. Wasteland, wasteland. So we can say, if I take that very same term, wasteland, and I apply it to these first 2,000 years of life, I'm saying basically you got 2,000 years of caveman. I'm saying basically 2,000 years of chaos. But what stands out? Well, Adam and Eve do stand out, other than Chava were, of course, the handiwork of God. And even though they made their own mistake and were kicked out of the Garden of Eden, nevertheless, they were great people. They were the parents of mankind. And Noah certainly stood out as a tzaddik to the point where he survived the flood as the only one with his family. And now with all this history behind us, 2,000 years of emptiness, wasteland, 1,000 from Adam to Noah, then the flood. 1,000 from Noah to Avram, and then there's no flood. and their weekly is bad. What happened? Avram Avinu came along and changed the world. Now, if you think about a life that's impacted, I mean, wow, he changed the world. It impacted, you know. And I was talking about with one of my colleagues, and we were in a cemetery some years ago at a funeral. And after the funeral was over, as we were walking out of the cemetery, we looked at the hundreds or maybe thousands of graves, and we said to each other, how many people remember? Is anybody remembering all of these people? All these people remember? Perhaps many of them forgotten, many of them neglected. Maybe no one ever visits them or whatever. Their life of emptiness, nothingness, you know. And all of a sudden, along comes one man, stands up with courage. We talked about it before. With strength, with conviction, not afraid to say his piece in public, while everyone thought he was nutty. And he becomes the great Avram Avinu, who changes the world. And since he's born in the year 1948 after creation, and he's now 52 years old, the year the world turns to be 2000, that's when the world changes to 2,000 years of the Torah. Right?
1948.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Yeah, it's very, very interesting. 1948, the common era of Israel. And I'm going to talk about Israel today also. But then the world changes, and 2,000 years of Torah begins, which of course ended with the destruction of the tragedy of the temple in Jerusalem, the Beis Hamikdash, which of course now begins the next 2,000 years of we're in it, and it's the 2,000 years of?
Exile.
2,000 years of?
Mashiach.
Mashiach. If you know it, folks, say it. Don't be afraid. Say it. The worst thing is to be wrong. Why? Right? The only way to get to be right is to be wrong a few times. And it's a mitzvah to be wrong. So that's the 2,000 years of Torah, and that's began with Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu was 52 years old. He searched the world to try and change and try to figure out the truth because he saw the rest of the world was crazy, and he figured it out. Yes, there's only one God, monotheism, and he could chop off the heads of all the idols in his father's store, and he began to realize that idolatry is stupid, and the truth is Hashem, the one God, the invisible God, the force behind the entire earth. Now,
do we consider Abraham Gad?
Yeah, absolutely. And that gives you an insight to the courage of the Gad.
He's the first convert.
Right, first convert. And still clearly that tells you, Gerim, converts, need to have courage.
Story of David, Melech's grandmother with
Same thing, right, same thing.
Root.
Right, same thing. Change requires courage. But I think the real courage is to stand up when you know that people are going to look at you funny. Maybe even insult you, maybe berate you, maybe shame you, and so forth.
It was like Pinkas.
Huh?
Like Pinkas, right? He stood up
Right.
and everything, it could have been all bad for him.
Absolutely. Just like Pinkas. We'll talk about him too, but in the months to come. But I think again, the point is that you don't have to be in people's face to stand up with courage. But if people do challenge you, then you do need to stand up. And converts gotta face challenges. How come? I mean, what did your mother say? Your father say? Your brother, your sister? I mean, everybody. A lot of people would say a lot of funny things about you, and you do have to have that courage to stand up and not necessarily be confrontational. Even though Avraham Avinu was confrontational, but you have to have that kind of strength we talked about. That being said, Avraham wants to bury Sarah. And we said again, even though it's her death and her burial, nevertheless, it's really her life because she lived on for eternity. We said, what about the fact that Sarah died and didn't show exactly that amount of faith? We'll handle that question. But what's of concern to our story here, if you all take another moment on your own, without me saying anything, read through that first page, and what's the main interest or main issue here that the Torah wants to tell us? What's the main thrust of the story of Sarah's passing? What's the real story here? Just read it through real quick, that first page. What do you say?
מקום
She
לקבור אותה.
cried because he saw what.
Well, we talked about that, and that's a question. We're gonna answer that question. But
מקום לקבור אותה.
right, the bottom line is burial, which teaches us another great lesson. That if life is prized, then so is death. In other words, we're all gonna die. Sooner or later. Hopefully later. Point is that if we understand that, I'm not saying we live morbidly and, real morose or sad, but we do live with a sense of reality. And living with that sense of reality gives us the strength to make every day here count. And we're now at a funeral service. So on Sunday, for those of you that were here, we went to a wedding ceremony. Right? If you missed it, we'll do it again, a little bit, we'll review it on Sunday. It's for those of you that need it. but the point is that YouTube. But the point is that we're going to deal tonight with the funeral ceremony. So in a funeral ceremony, in the very first passage, what does it say? It says two things that Avram Avinu, you need a chumash? There's one right there. Two things that Avram Avinu does that teaches us two amazingly important elements in a funeral ceremony. What do you see?
He eulogized and he bewailed her.
All right, excellent. What does that mean? That means basically, eulogy is an absolute must. What's the crying stuff? Well, the crying stuff, bewailing her is pretty much, that you expect that. What's it telling you? So basically, I think what it's telling us, basically, is that eulogy and crying go hand in hand. Which means that the purpose of the eulogy is to get you to cry. The Gemara says, whoever cries or sheds tears at the passing of a kosher person, a person who lived a kosher life, a straight life, a good life, a consistent life, a healthy life, whoever cries for that person, all of the sins are forgiven. כל המוריד דמעות לאדם כשר, מוכלים לו כל עוונותיו. Forgiveness for all your sins. It's an amazing lesson to teach us the importance of acknowledging the value of life. And you acknowledge it even at death, maybe particularly at death. That teaches you, of course, how to value the person before he dies. A lot of people that don't pay attention. They'll say, "Oh, he died. I feel so bad." No, that's because we know that death is imminent at any given time. We should be valuing the people in our lives: parents, siblings, loved ones. We should be valuing them while they're alive, knowing that time is always limited. That's important to do. When you have a real serious sense of death, you will have a real serious sense of life and its value. So at the ceremony here, at the death, at the funeral, we're going to give a eulogy, and the eulogy will tell us how great this woman was. Now we're going to talk about that right now, because I want to get to other topics, but clearly we could spend another moment, maybe towards the end, while we're answering the question of Sarah's faith. We'll talk about Sarah's greatness as well. We'll try to eulogize her and maybe try to get a perspective of what Avram really said during the eulogy. But the crying is extra, and the crying should be brought out by the eulogy. That's the purpose of the eulogy, the value of the eulogy. There should be tears. It's a loss. A loss is a shattering. A loss is a break. You lost something. Now, if you lost $50, maybe you feel bad. If you lost a diamond ring, whoa. If you lost this, that, and that, whatever, maybe someone stole your car, all kinds of losses in the world. But this is what a loss is all about. The loss of a life, the loss of a loved one, loss that's really serious. So Avram comes, and the ceremony begins with his eulogy and with his crying. Anyone else want to tell me without, What's the obvious next one, since we talked about it a moment ago?
The place of burial.
Place of burial, yeah. And that's okay. We gotta bury. So in the ceremony, in the funeral service, we will move from the prayers and from the eulogy to the actual burial itself. In terms of the burial, the fact that Avram is doing it teaches us a great lesson, a great rule about the burial. What does it teach us about the burial? The fact that Avram is doing it.
Well, it's been,
Bury your own.
no, it's been,
Say again.
Bury your own.
Who's in it? We take care of our own. At a funeral service, you know that people do ceremonially throw a little shovels of dirt on it. That's nonsense. You bury. We don't wait for the guy to come with the tractor. Jews take care of their own. And Jewish people stand up, take the shovels, and cover the entire hole of the grave until it's covered, and then we can resume the service and say the Kaddish and conclude. So that's important to learn, and whoever participates in that is doing the greatest kindness of all. When we talk about chesed, we talk about, hang on a second, we talk about chesed, kindness, right? We talked about last week, and we talked about hospitality, we talked about dancing with the wedding for the bride, we talked about visiting the sick, and comforting the mourner, and burying the dead.
It's the greatest.
Is the greatest. It's called, and we learned that from Joseph. When we finish this book, we'll learn that Yaakov is dying, and Yaakov needs to be buried, and he calls his son Yosef over, and he says, I need you to bury me in a place that I want, Eretz Yisrael, not here in Mitzrayim, in Egypt, where I am, and
take his bones up out of
and
his
say, right, and I need a chesed ve'emet, a kindness and truth. Let's take a look at that. Let's take a look at that on page 300, no, 200, and here it is over here, 268. Verse 29, the second one on the page. And the days of Israel began close to death. By the way, if you take a look at the passage before 28, you'll see the astonishing similarity in our parsha. It says, and Yaakov lived in Mitzrayim 17 years, and his whole life was 147. Everyone see that? On page 268, 269?
Yes.
Right? So once again, he lived, but now we're talking about his death. Once again, the eternity of a person whose life is celebrated upon his passing, because we know he's going to live forever. So his days come to close to death in 29, and he calls his son Yosef, and he says, if I've found favor in your eyes, please do for me a chesed ve'emet. And we'll see that?
Yes.
A kindness and truth. What's the mean, kindness of truth? It means the only time you can ever do something completely 100% selfless, altruistic, meaning that in every single thing people do to one another, right? And we do it with greatest love and kindness, but you know, every once in a while you want something back, maybe give you a little favor back or something. You can't get anything back from the guy who's dead. When you do that, that's the greatest kindness of all, the truest kindness. Well, let's back to our page over here. That's what Aaron was going to do for Sarah, page 106. And so we learned here about the burial ceremony, about the funeral service. We learned about the eulogy. We learned about the crying. We learned about the honor given to the deceased. That again, you mean kindness. If you give kindness to the deceased, shouldn't you give kindness to the living as well? I mean, it stands to reason. And this kind of kindness, by the way, one of the things that is really, really offensive to Jews is staring at people who are maybe a little handicapped or less capable of things than we are. You see, if I'm a blind person, government, a cripple, government, people stare at them all the time. And of course, you teach your kids not to do it, but it's kind of sad. Certainly, we do not look at a corpse. that's a pretty big no. Therefore, the coffin must be closed. Right? So that's another important lesson to learn. And we've got by the way, in terms of the coffin itself, it should be made out of very, very simple pine wood. In Israel, there's no coffin at all. It's just wrapped in the talit and into the ground, so that the body begins its decomposition, and clearly, the quickly that happens, the quicker the body rises to the heavens. And of course, and if you want to talk about burying, as we said, the soul does not leave the body and rise to God until that grave is full. And then we can say a Kaddish. Now, Kaddish is a prayer that of course, praises God. We all know that. And why would you be praising God at a time like this? Again, to show your faith, thank you for the wonderful life, and so forth. But it's not a good idea to do so before the grave is full. Because why? Why do we wait for the grave to be full before we actually bury a person? Before we actually say the Kaddish and praise God?
Well, it wouldn't be complete. It's sanctified.
Basically, it's for as much as you want to praise God, it's too difficult. It's really tough. That's a moment that you just can't do. For that matter, most people have the custom that the mourners, the Avelim, do not participate in the burial. It's too tough for them. So others do. Others will come to participate in the funeral.
Are you allowed though if you want to?
They do allow it. Again, it's just not customary. But then, can you have the burial and right after the burial, you have the Kaddish, and then after the Kaddish, it is the focus of the crowd that has come to say, we've done our kindness to him. Now we have to do our kindness to the mourners. We have him. And therefore we make two rows, as you well know, and then the mourners will walk through the row, and we offer them comfort, and then they go home and continue the mourning through the next 7 days of Shiva. Right. Okay, so this is what we learned from all of this. And it's a great lesson about the beauty of life, the reality of death, and how it's done in a manner that's most dignified, most honorable, most respectful, and certainly the eulogy and the prayer and the crying and the burying and all of that is all part of it and very important. And of course, the greatest kindness of all is we learn chesed shalem, of truth. Now we come to the major lesson of this parsha. Avram has to get a burial place. And if you would like to either look forward, or maybe you know in advance, what does Avram specifically want?
The king and Machpelah.
He wants
The field.
of
Hebron.
Machpelah. And Machpelah is in the city of Hebron.
Hebron.
Since that is true, ever since the Jewish people, Israel, in modern times in 1967, won the 6-day war and took over Hebron, which we didn't have for the first 19 years of Israel's existence, now we do. Hebron has been a focal point for Jewish cultural life in Israel. I can promise you, and I can tell you, that this Shabbat, 20,000 people will flood the city of Hebron. It is a major event, a major celebration. It's something that's so exciting and part of Israeli life. It's just an incredible moment. We're all in Hebron. Now, in modern times, Hebron is under tremendous dispute. You know, everyone knows that Israel should give it back and all that baloney. And you know how I feel about that. And we won't get into politics too quickly. But certainly the Arabs want it, and the Arabs don't acknowledge the sense of Jewish presence there. And we as a people run to it with religious fervor and with joy and acknowledge Hebron as an integral part of Israel. So we tell the Shimoni, the secular, we say, you want to give back Hebron? You can give back Tel Aviv first. We're not interested in Tel Aviv. We want Hebron. Because frankly, we have historical precedents that you don't have. Tel Aviv was built in 1909. Hebron was bought way back, way back. And so, the key here for what I wanted to share tonight, which I think is so meaningful, is the idea that he wants particularly Hebron, and particularly in Hebron, Machpelah. And so he negotiates for it. And you can see in verse 3, he is going to negotiate with the people of Chet. Aaron comes up in verse 3, arises from the presence of his dead. Why is it called his dead? Why is it called his dead?
It's because Sarah.
Huh?
Sarah belongs to him.
That's right. So it's his responsibility.
Yes.
It's my responsibility to take care of this person. It's my dead. Therefore, I've got to take care of it, right?
Yes.
And that's what he did. He's now negotiating for a burial right. Like we like go to any cemetery and get a plot. You see what I'm saying? So he says, he goes to Bnei Chet and he says, look, I'm a stranger, an alien, and a resident. I got a problem with that, verse 4. I'm an alien and a resident. What do you say about that, Pete? How do you get that? I mean, you find that problematic? You see that? Is that okay?
Resident alien.
Well, it's one little problem.
He's
I don't think they're one and the same. Aren't they different? Is there a difference between a resident and a
yes. He's not a citizen of the world.
Okay.
Well, he hasn't come to.
He doesn't want to be part of their people, but he's residing there inside the area.
Okay, so but okay, you're all trying to find a good answer to it. But would you admit, Katie, that it's fair to raise the question?
Yes.
Would you admit that? I mean, there's something incongruous in the statement alien and resident? What's your job here? Your job is to take every word that you find that's difficult and go after it. Ask it. See the problem. So once you see the problem, you'll struggle for an answer.
So he's there, but he doesn't really belong there.
Right. I'm not sure I like that too much.
But I mean,
he's there, but he's an alien. He's a resident. I mean.
That's the point of the purchase.
Okay.
That it made it stabilized the
Okay,
whole.
he owns it.
I'm an American citizen. I'm a resident. End of story. I'm not an alien.
As a Jew. As a Jew.
Yeah, right. Okay, so as a Jew, that's American in America. How about a Jew in Israel? What is he?
He's
Right. So if you wanted to move to Israel tomorrow, would you be an alien or a resident?
resident.
If let's say an Australian wanted to move to Israel, what would he be?
An alien
An
resident.
alien. And maybe he could apply for citizenship, right? I mean, let's say the Mexicans. Okay, so a Mexican comes to America and he says he wants to apply for citizenship. So at this point, until he gets his citizenship, what is he?
An alien.
Alien.
Okay, he gets his citizenship, and he has a residence. Okay, what? Right. We'll talk about that. Okay, but again, so can you be both?
Yes.
How? I challenge you. I don't see how you do that.
Because
Either
you
are or
have,
you aren't.
you have investment though in the place where you are.
Good. But the reality is, I live here, but I don't make the decisions for me. The government makes decisions for me. The government will determine whether or not I'm an alien or a resident. The government's going to do that. The government will call me a resident. But what?
Because Hashem promised him his land.
Oh. So now you want to say he's a resident then?
Yeah, because Hashem promised.
Good. But then why'd you call himself an alien?
Because
What's the Hebrew? What's the Hebrew for alien resident? Anybody? Take a look at it.
Okay.
No, but take a look at what it says in the Chumash.
It's
It
because-
says ger v'toshav.
Pretty cool.
What's a ger? Or a foreigner. Right? Foreigner. An alien. I'm an alien.
He's saying it in a humble way. He's not.
I want another thing then. If you say the same word ger applies to a convert, you want to say, I wouldn't say that all converts are aliens. But a convert becomes a Jew automatically, 100%. That's my getting this here. Ger v'toshav. You're one or the other. So let's say I call Rabbi Bloc and I say I want to learn for conversion. So can I come to your class? It's okay, come to my class. All the time that the person's in the class, is the person an alien or a resident?
Alien.
An alien. The moment the person decides to go for a swim, right. I'm the lifeguard, by the way. I'm the lifeguard. Understand? So the moment you come, then you're now a resident. So you can't be both at the same time.
But he says that he is.
What do you want to say?
So the commentary explains it pretty precisely.
Okay, tell me what the commentary says.
Okay.
We'll see if I agree with the commentary.
So this is according to Dubs It says, on the one hand, he's a resident of his country, and as such, he must work and pray for its welfare. As Jeremiah urged his people on the threshold of exile. On the other hand, the Jew in this world is always an alien, for his allegiance is to God, and his goals are set forth by the Torah. So therefore, a Jew must always be ready to be a lonely alien, resisting the culture that surrounds him and maintaining his unique responsibility.
Lovely. So that's in an ideological sense. But in terms of a land sense, in other words, ideologically, wherever I am, I'm an alien to the rest of the world.
Yes.
Agreed. Agreed, I'm alone. Right? And that, by the way, is I'm going to jump now to a little bit of a conclusion, is why Avraham feels so strongly about burial and the particular spot of the burial. Why?
Because he would own it.
Why is that important?
Because that's
Because
what
now
the
it's
thing
purchased
is,
and it becomes
right?
part of the
For
land of
people
Israel.
coming, for the
Or you're
descendants-
jumping. I'm going to get to you.
For the descendants coming in.
That what he got was from anyone besides Hashem. He didn't want
He didn't
to-
want to-
Right, but I think
Put a great wife in a free spot.
Then they might,
I think the answer is simpler, folks.
they might,
The answer is simpler. I'm going to fight with you. The answer is simpler to me anyway.
That he owns it.
Did you ever wonder? Let's take a drive up to Forest Lawn. Where was that? Off the 134?
Yes.
Right? Now, adjacent to Forest Lawn is Mount Sinai. Forest Lawn is a burial spot for Goyim. And Mount Sinai is the burial spot for Jews. Isn't that kind of funny? I mean, like, if we wanted to, let's say, have different burial spots for all kinds of different nationalities or religions, then we could have maybe 70 different cemeteries. But it seems that everybody else is okay being buried together, except us. Where are these privileged character prima donnas? where are these guys that say, I don't want to be alone? What's the idea? What's the point?
A witness.
What are we trying to say here?
They want to be together.
Okay, but take that further then.
Well, then.
If we
so
want to be together, then we really
the whole
want to
family. They want to be.
Right.
The whole
So
family wants to
therefore,
We take care of our own.
therefore,
We take care of our own.
therefore,
We take care of our own.
man. Therefore, the answer is, folks, at least to me, what?
We buy it.
Oh, well, that's true too. We talked about that in a minute. We will. That's a very important religious rule for all Jewish families. Buy property. Everyone should buy property where they want to be buried, and the younger the better. In fact, buying the property, buying the gravesite, a plot, actually is a blessing because they say for long life. Okay, but here's my thought on that. And I don't want to just say those thoughts they are merit worthy, but give mine consideration. My thought is the idea of Avram wanting to get a burial spot, which is his religious obligation, his family obligation, it's his dead, and the idea of him wanting it to be a specific spot is this concept. He wants to be, like you say, family together, because in the end he's going to be buried next to his wife, right? He wants it to be separate. He wants it to be separate from everybody else. And in getting that point across is that if Jews have a separate graveyard, which we do, then we have a separate house of worship, which we do, which we have our communities, when we do all together in our communities and so forth. We go after isolation. We're not promoting integration. It's not what are we gonna do?
And Adam and Chava were buried there.
Oh, that's, okay, so he had a thought about that, right? Why do you think because everyone knows, by the way,
Yes.
Hebron is another name for Hebron. Would you take a look at Hebron?
Yeah, that one.
What?
Yeah, that
Who
one.
said that? Kiryat Arba, right? What's Arba mean?
Four.
Four couples. Let's name the four couples. Who's the first couple buried there?
Adam and Eve.
Adam and Eve, Adam and Chava. After that, Avraham and Sarah. After that, Yitzchak and Rivka. And finally, Yaakov and Leah. Okay. So most likely you want to say, you said it, that he looked over there and he saw, there's a good place. Adam and Chava's here. Adam and Chava's here. Wow, there's a place to be buried. And the first human beings in history, the most beautiful people of all time, right? No, that's a great place. But the point is that he wanted it to pay for it, to be his own, because why?
So that no one would take it.
He wanted his ownership. But how? What was the purpose? The purpose is, I want to be separate.
Possessing it.
Now what does that mean? That means for us in life, we are separate people. We understand that as definitive defining Jewishness. And not putting anybody down. I'm not considering myself superior or inferior. I'm just saying we're separate. We're different. And I've said it 100 times. My next door neighbor, my pal. I'm Jewish. We're good friends. We talk about things from time to time, whatever. We say hello every morning. But he's not my family. He is my friend. It's a difference. There's a Jew in the Soviet Union, or in Ukraine, whatever they call them over there these days. No, I'm sorry. I don't want to call them places. Far away in the middle of nowhere. I grew up. I grew up when I was a kid growing up in Russia. Holy mackerel. That was place, I don't know where that was. I don't believe I would meet Russian people my whole life. Imagine how far away it is. But yet, that person is my brother, or she is my sister, because they're Jewish. You hear that?
Yes.
Once you get that idea across inside your bones, then you begin to understand what it means to be one. And that's why what Avram really wants is to be separate. Now, of course, separate means what? It means separate's got to be our place. So therefore,
Own it.
I got to own it. I got to buy it. And owning it, by the way, you can take ownership of stuff without buying things. I mean, someone here bought me a drink, right? It was a wonderful thing. I'm gonna take it. Someone bought me a drink. So I didn't pay for it, but they gave it to me, right? So I'm grateful. I ain't paying for it. but I just took possession of it. So if I took possession of it, now, and I'm going to take a little drink right here, right?
Amen.
Delicious. So now, the question is, whose snap was this? Mine or the purchaser?
It's yours.
Yours.
You're guilty.
Well, sorry. Whose snap was it? Mine or the purchaser? Mine. You want to have a drink, don't ask the guy that bought it. Ask me. I took it, I took possession of it, I didn't pay a dime. Money doesn't always have to be the factor of possession, but it could be. And if you do give it, then all of a sudden, you do have a stake in it, it does become possession. So this time, we're going to use money. The Mishnah is going to learn a very interesting thing. And we'll talk about marriage for a second. The Mishnah is going to learn that there are 3 ways to acquire a wife. We talked about this past Sunday, that a wife is acquired not to possess or to control, but rather to assume responsibility for, to take care of. That's why the man gives the woman a ring, not vice versa. In giving the ring, he is taking an acquisition. We'll call in Hebrew the word acquisition, kinyan. Koneh, a kinyan. It's mine. She's mine now. What do you mean she's mine? It means she belongs to me to the extent that she cannot entertain the thought of another man.
She cannot what?
She can't consider another man. She's mine. She's made her pledge to me. Now, we learned yesterday and Sunday that this is voluntary, didn't we? You can't marry a woman against her will. So how does a woman demonstrate her will at the time of the chuppah? What does she do? Well, she extends her finger, and I told the lady to remember which finger, right? Remember that finger? And that's the flying fickle finger. And and that finger, you understand? And you don't hold up like this. It's done. What you do is, and here's a good way of doing it, by the way. I once asked the bride when it was over. I told the bride, I said, "Would you kindly point to the man you want to marry?" So she went, "Oh, they're very good. Thank you." And then the ring goes on easier that way, huh? It doesn't go on so good. So the point is that when he gives her the ring, he has made a possession, no different than when I drink the soda of the drink, and therefore that's called a kinyan of possession. Belongs to me. The kind of kinyan that is established by a man giving a ring is called a kinyan of money. Different than what I just did. I didn't pay a dime for it. So I took possession of it in a different manner. There are three ways to take possession of your wife. One is money. The other one is? Shtar. Yeah. Alright, so what is shtar? That's a contract. Now that's not the ketubah contract, by the way. Don't get mistaken. It is a regular contract that simply says you are betrothed to me with this contract. No different when the man says.
Only Ashkenaz do it.
That's not, nobody does it today.
I saw you have one in your office.
No, that's I mean, shtar
The contract things, the contract thing.
No, that's not the same thing. That's not the same. It's not used anymore today.
Oh.
Because once you have halakha, let's say, that says you can do three ways, and the Torah says you can do any one of three ways, and along come the Rabbanan, they have the authority and the right to say use this one instead of that one. Why do they have that right? Because the Rabbanan always legislate law that works best for society. Rabbanan understood that it was better to give money than to give a contract. Maybe because the contract wasn't really worth very much, and in order to really demonstrate ownership, you should really give something of value. But then the third possession is that a man has relations with the woman. And that is no different than me drinking the soda. And there's no money transfer at all. Is that an acceptable way of making her yours? Absolutely. However, the Gemara learns, and Chazal teaches today, not to do it. Why? Because it leads to promiscuity, it leads to looseness, it's the kind of situation which may have existed in Talmudic times, which worked then, it doesn't work today. Not in all loose society. So all loose society says, you want to marry the woman, so you have to do it with the money. But these are the three operatives. Let's use the same three operatives and say, I want to buy a piece of property, so I can give money for it, like Avram did here. Or I can write a contract. Or I can simply occupy. Just like I would take the woman and possess her, I would take the piece of property and occupy what she's going to do. It's going to bury her right there. So these three ways of possession are extremely important because, as we said, if you don't take possession, then you can't be separate anymore. You can't hold back who's going to bury it and who's not going to be buried there. You want to restrict this to Jews, you got to own the place. So that's what Avram does. But in so doing, he makes the possession, but he would use a very interesting way of taking possession. Anyone want to tell me? Which one of the three methods will Avram use to take possession of this piece of property?
All three.
Okay, so what does he do?
He says, take this money.
The money.
He does all three.
The kicha, the taking, which is the same word used in the Torah by a wife, is here used as money. And he pays him top dollar. Interesting that a top dollar comes in negotiations as follows. He says over here, I'm going to speak to the case, and he says in verse 5, follow me please. He tells them, look here, in verse 4, I want to bury my dead in front of me. And they respond to him, and what do they do? They call him a very beautiful name. What in verse 4, what great title do they give Avram Avinu?
Israel, Prince of God.
Prince of God.
Right, and the C, a Prince of God. right? They call him in English
Yes.
as well? Prince of God, right? So you're a big shot. Who's gonna stop you? So let's understand something. We got this strange feeling here that he's an alien and a resident. We can't figure that out yet, at least I haven't figured it out. And frankly, he's considered a leader
Yes.
of God. So they regard him, and again, whatever you are is how you're regarded. If you're an alien, it's because you're regarded that way. If you're a citizen, it's because you're regarded that way. If you're regarded as the Prince of God, with great respect, what would you call him? A alien or a resident? Or a resident, right? So again, that only heightens the problem. Why is he called an alien then?
Well, he calls himself an alien out of humility.
Why not?
Because one is just your status and one is, okay,
You're a
you're.
chashav hagam.
It was all about the time, though,
So
Rabbi.
you can say that, but I think it's also fair to suggest that the usage does in some manner represent his position there, his entrenchment there, so to speak. And I think, again, we really have to fight to try and understand what is it that that this connection of alien and resident is. And I'll present something about it for your consideration. but the point is that at this point they consider him an important person, and they say to him, "No one's going to stop you." And Avram gets up in verse 7, and what does he say in verse 8? I want to speak to the big shot. What's the big shot's name? Ephraim. Stay with me, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, stay with me. The big shot is Ephraim. Okay? And the request is made in verse 9. Can you find for me in verse 9, first of all, what he's asking for? What's the place called? Everyone see it? Everyone see Machpelah? Okay, good. What does the word Machpelah mean?
Double.
Double. Why?
Because of he
They double the price.
No.
pair.
Adam and Eve.
The pair. Adam and Eve.
Because there are couples buried here.
Couples, yeah.
Couples. Right? Two, right? Okay. So it's called Machpelah, and it's, he wants to give, however, and he says at the end of the verse, he says, I want it as a inheritance of the burial. That means it's an estate, he calls it, for burial site. He wants it forever. That's what he calls it, an English estate, which really means he wants it forever, right? And then he says, the key word in verse 9 is full price. Why do you think Avram insists upon paying full price? Well, number one, he can afford it. He's a very wealthy man. But besides that, why is he asking to pay full price?
He didn't want anybody to think that they were cheated.
That's possible, okay? Why does he want to pay full price? I don't want no discounts. He must not be Jewish.
Sarah was worth it, the full price.
It's worth it. Why?
There's a witness for all those.
Oh God. Why does he want to pay full price? What do you say? Yeah. Why does he want to pay full price? Would you pay full price?
It shows his love for Sarah.
Why?
It shows his love for Sarah. It shows his love for Sarah.
Very good. But it also shows
No hat on it, yeah.
no hanging.
No
At this
haggle.
point, I'm not Jewish. I don't want to haggle. I don't want to negotiate. I don't want to discuss it. I don't want 3 for the price of 1 or 2 for the price of 4. I don't want any of that stuff. I want this to be indisputable. Which means that if the still goes through, which we know it will, today, is Hebron in any way, shape, or form open to discussion to be given back to Arabs?
No.
It's impossible. You want to give back Tel Aviv? Give back Tel Aviv. You can keep it. You want to give back Haifa? Gesundheit. Give back Haifa. I just want the kever of Eliyahu. That's all I want. You know the rest. But Hebron, we paid for it, for God's sake. Okay, I understand the Arabs. They don't really understand that. They don't really know how to pay for things. They really don't take, Arabs, when God opened the door to the Arabs, and they said, what's in it? God said, well, you can't steal. The Arabs said, forget it. We live by stealing. Okay, they tried it now. But the reality is, we pay for this. So this is really important. Maybe it's possible to suggest that Avraham Avinu is thinking about the future. Maybe he's thinking about right now, isn't he?
Avraham Avinu is their father too.
Okay, and what does he want established? And this is ours. You get it? So it's clear that this is for eternity. Now, whenever you buy a piece of property, buy a nice house. So I was talking to a fellow at the gym today. He bought a beautiful house, came to LA, and way back when his houses were affordable. And he bought a nice little house, this, that, and that. And he bought that bigger house because his family got bigger. And now that he's a little older, because he's in my old man's gym, and he's and the kids are all gone, empty nest. He wants to relocate, but another piece of property. But understand something. It's not forever. What's the only piece of property you'll ever own forever?
Yes, sir.
No, you're
great. You're great. Now, you understand, you can buy a house, 100 square feet. What's 1,000 square feet? What are they going for? 5,000 square feet. What a house, right? 5,000 square feet. The dream of your life. At the end of the day, folks, everybody gets what? No matter how much you own. Right? You all get 6 by 6. In other words, I'm a millionaire. I'm a millionaire. Don't know. Why don't we at our funeral services, of course we don't look at the coffin anyway, but why don't we dress the people up? Because at the end of the day, at the end of your life, we're all equal. We're all equal. I don't care how much money you got. Then there was a story about a guy who was very stingy. He never gave tzedakah. And one day he died. And he got up to heaven. And he knocked on the door of heaven. Let me in, please, I want to come. And he said, no, you didn't do the mitzvahs right. You didn't do it properly. You didn't do tzedakah. You didn't do charity. So he said, let me in. I got a lot of money. You're down there, over there, BOA. See BOA down there. I got $1 billion and $1 million in BOA. In fact, I'll write you a check right now. I'm going to pay to the order of heaven. How much you want? And the Malach, the angel, comes out from the gates of heaven and he says to her, he says to the man or woman, he says, you understand, over here, we only accept canceled checks, not checks of a new. You gave your tzedakah in your lifetime, and you can show canceled checks to this rabbi, or to this poor person, or to that yeshiva, or to that shul, and maybe we'll let you come in.
Where did you get that?
Well, then you're pretty dumb. But you get a receipt. They'll accept receipts up there, I promise you that. So, anyway, so what we learned from all this, of course, is that this is for eternity, and this is, you said about Sarah's love, who said about Sarah's love, right? The point of Sarah's love is what? Is that she did not connect for eternity. That's why we're going to be married together. That's why I'm concerned with buying the property for her, and that's why I'm concerned with paying full price, because I want it forever. So we talked about now 2 things. A, separatism, and B, that it's got to be guaranteed ours. And so if a non-Jew comes and says, can I be buried here? The answer is no. Sorry. Nothing personal. Nothing, go to Forest Lawn. But we're sorry, not here. Because we are separate. The idea of us separate people, the idea of separate burial ground, the idea of staying within the family, like you said, the idea of and this is forever. That means we're connected forever as husband and wife. We're connected forever as a people, brother and sister. This is our place. This is our shul, only for Jewish people. This is our yeshiva, only for Jewish people. This is our burial ground, only for Jewish people. And the idea, of course, is now coupled with the idea that this is forever. That means eternal. That means this is eternity. So when I put the ring on my wife's finger and I say, behold, you are betrothed to me, I'm saying really, I'm applying betrothed to me forever. For eternity. Just like Abraham buys this piece of property forever. He acquires his wife forever. And that's why they're buried together. So you get this idea of eternity, of separatism, and that's what Abraham's trying to achieve. And of course, we said the 400 shekels. Why? He wants full price. Let's just find out what the full price is. Ephraim stands up in verse 10, the bottom of the page, and he speaks to Abraham. Will someone tell me what words are said at the bottom of the page after he responds to Abraham? What does it say? Bottom page, bottom line, what does it say? Responds to Abraham in the hearing of the children of God. What does the hearing mean?
The receiving.
In the hearing.
The witness. They were witnesses.
They were witnesses, right? So he wants his people, he's obviously the leader of the people, he wants his people to witness this negotiation. Why is that important to him?
Because it's a testimony.
More than that. Watch. Next passage, listen, you want it? It's yours. Eat me, my Lord. Give me the field for the cake that is given to you, the view of all people, and the view of all the people, the hearing of the people, view of all the people, have I given it to you, bury your dead. Is he asking for any money?
No.
What does Abraham respond? In 12. Abraham bows and says, and speaks to the council, he says, I speak to everyone, and give you honor, you're the leader, but I say to you, rather, I would heed thee. Please listen to me. I give you the price of the field, except for me, I may bury the dead here. So Ephraim responds in verse 14. He says, well, that's what you want. The land is worth how much? Verse 14.
400
400 silver shekels between me and you. Besides, between me and you. I'm rich, you're rich. Come on, what's 400 shekels? All right, come on. And what does it mean, bury your dead? But you got to read it right. What does it mean, between me and you? What does that mean?
There's nothing to us.
It's in the contract. You don't read this.
Right. So let's understand. What he's saying here also is this. I want everybody to hear what I'm offering. What is he offering?
The highest.
No, what? I'm sorry, not wrong. What does, everyone wants everyone to hear this. What am I offering?
400.
I'm offering it for free.
Free, yeah.
What does everyone want to pay? Well, if you want to pay, it's 400. Now, and remember, by the way, in Jewish life, our top number is always 400, right? If we do gematria with the letters, with the Hebrew alphabet, what is the last letter top? How much is that?
400.
Top is 400. 400 is on top, and everything we do, 400 is on top. 400. Man goes from 0 to 400 in 60 seconds. How to catch a man. 0 to 400. Boom. And boy, is he trying to shoot. 0 to 400. What's the point?
He was always intended.
What he's trying to say is, he's doing the opposite of what the Mishnah teaches. The Mishnah teaches Pirkei Avot and more me'at v'aseh habeh. And what's he doing instead? What's he doing instead? Hold.
Stop love.
He's doing and more harbeh v'aseh ma'at. Mishnah says, say little, do much. What's he doing?
Doing much.
Doing much, saying much, and doing little. I want everyone to hear this. I'm a big shot. I'm talking to the big shot guy in Rome. Him and I, two wealthy guys, I'm offering for free. Everyone get it? I want the credit. I want the glory. I want the applause. But if you insist, if you insist, right? And he knows how Rome's going to insist. So how generous is this man?
Not generous.
Not generous. Negative.
Bum. He's a bum. Now, Avram then pays him the 400 shekel kesef and becomes his, Sarah's, ours, forever. But not only does this burial ground become separate and us forever, but the place where it's located is forever. Where's it located? In Israel. Therefore, Israel's forever. Hebron's forever, Israel's forever. Do we understand this now? Do we understand why 20,000 people this Shabbat? Now it's Friday morning in Israel. They're all breaking their preparations. 20,000 people. Did you ever go to Hebron on Shabbat? You never went in your life. You never enjoyed such a moment. They're in Israel. You can't believe it. What a magnificent opportunity. Wow. Boy, if I could get on a jet right now. If someone give me a ticket right now, I'm gone. Go to Hebron for Shabbat. Shabbat, we bought Hebron. This Shabbat of parsha Chayei, every year since 1967, 20,000 people descend upon the city. How do they manage? I don't know. Everybody takes in 10, 20 guests. I don't know what it is. They prepare a lot of food. What can I tell you? Could you imagine the power, the energy, the joy, the dancing, the singing that goes on in this Shabbat in Hebron? Because it means what? It means Israel's ours. It means we hear all these dissenting voices. We hear the garbage of the United Nations. We hear the garbage of all these people that say it belongs to the Arabs. It should be a two-state solution. We hear that. And it means nothing. We know the truth. The truth is it's ours. Because that's a biblical accuracy of truth. That's a biblical accuracy of history. And you can't deny this. And so, of course, this is a great moment, a seminal moment. And we have this beautiful purchase. And Aaron does it in verse 16. Will you read, please, the first word in verse 17? Or the first two words. First three words in 17.
And Ephron's field,
What's the next word after Ephron's field?
which was in Machpelah.
What was after that?
The field and the cave within it, and all the trees in the field,
Go on.
within all its surrounding boundaries, was confirmed.
Okay. Amazing that translation from English to Hebrew. The first word in the sentence in Hebrew is the last word in English. The Hebrew word vayakom is because to confirm. Yes, that's you know what I mean? So it says vayakom. In Hebrew, you know, the verb is always first, and then the pronoun. In America, in English, it's different. You know, in English we say Joe said. In Hebrew, we say said Joe. Omar Yosef. Right? That's how we say it. Yeah.
Rabbi, I have a question because I've read this parsha a few times. But my question is, was this the first demotion of someone's name? Because I know that when
Why is it called an demotion?
a demotion, because there was a vav in his name, and after he didn't do what he said he was going to do, give it to Aram for free.
So let's spell the word Ephron in Hebrew. Ein Pei Resh Nun. Ein Pei Resh Nun. Right? Ephron can be spelled with a vav in it too. Ein Pei Resh Vav Nun. Or you can take the vav out. By taking the vav out, that's a demotion. That means he goes down. Why does he go down? Because we said he's a bum. Why is he a bum? Because he offered much, he offered little, and
didn't do anything.
Right, big talker and empty barrel that makes a lot of noise, and he, in the end he gave nothing away. Right? But here's the key: the word confirmed in Hebrew is the first word vayakom. What does vayakom mean? Vayakom means a kiyum. What's a kiyum? Confirmation, right? When you mekayem something, it's like you confirm that it's real. But there's another meaning, a greater meaning to the word vayakom.
Continuation.
No, a better word. Vayakom.
To arise.
Say it again.
To rise.
I get up in the morning. Vayakom baboker, right? I gets up early in the morning. Vayakom, and of course he rises up, he gets out of bed, right? Vayakom means that the field arose. Now, folks, have you ever seen a field rise in your whole life? What does it mean?
The holiness of it rose, the sanctity of it.
So, Joe Blow, a secularist, owns a chair. Means nothing. Joe Schmo, not a kid called Joe Schmo, we'll call him a nicer name, Yosef we'll call him. Yosef, you understand? He buys the same chair. Yosef's a religious person. That chair becomes holy. The individual who is holy affects all the physical features around him. This guy, Joe Blow, owned a house or an apartment, whatever it was. It a secularist, maybe not even Jewish. All of a sudden, the Jewish person buys the house, puts the mezuzah up, makes the kitchen kosher, brings all the svarim in. It's a different house. It's a house of holiness. The same physicality becomes different. So you see that when you, as a religious person, attach or go to make something happen, right? It happens to the extent where remarkably it becomes higher level than ever before. So we put down Ephron, we bring up Avram, and this great place of Hebron and Machpelah becomes, of course, the eternal resting place for the Jewish people. And one point to remember is that in addition to our 3 fathers and 3 mothers, because we all know our 4th mother was buried separately, we all know the great heroic Rachel, which we'll talk about some other time. But in addition to that, we have the father of humanity, the mother of humanity, Chava. What are they doing there? They weren't Jewish. Or even Jewish. Or so holy or righteous. What are they doing there? So what we learn from this, listen very carefully now, is that the goal of Hashem in creating the world, the goal of Hashem in creating Adam and Chava and humanity was to eventually have Jewish people. That was the goal in the first place. That was God's form in the first place. When will there be an arising? And that was with Avraham Avinu. So when Avraham Avinu comes in and is buried there with his wife and his 2 children, his son and grandson and their wives, is the concept that they are the fulfillment of Adam and Chava. They are the fulfillment of humanity. And if they are the fulfillment of humanity, so is Israel. Why? Because the burial in Israel is the very burial that says this land belongs to us. And it was promised to us when? When was this land promised to us?
The very beginning ever.
You said
Covenant with Avram.
right?
Yes.
And what do you say?
From the very beginning.
In Bereshit. In Bereshit. Let's turn back to Bereshit and find out how God planned all this out that the Jews should get Israel. Listen to this and remember this forever. Page 2. Forever. Page 2. Okay, guys? Okay. In the beginning, God created heaven and the earth, right? Now, take a look over here. 1 second. Okay, the very beginning. We're beginning this, the commentary on the bottom. Okay? Page 2. We begin to study the Torah with the realization that the Torah is not a history book, but the chart of man's mission in this universe. Thus, in his very first commentary, Rashi quotes Rabbi who by the way is known to be his father, and he says that since the Torah is primarily a book of laws, it should have begun with the commandment of the new moon, which is the first commandment that was addressed all the Jews as a nation. So why does it then begin with creation? He explains that the reason for the Torah's narrative of creation to tell us a story when it's not a storybook is because it's to establish that God is the sovereign of the universe. He declared to his people the power of his words in order to give them the heritage of the nations. That means he declared his power of his words to all people and said, if the nations accuse Israel of banditry, of stealing, for seizing the lands of the 7 nations of Canaan, Israel can respond, the entire universe belongs to God. He created, he granted to whomever deemed fit. It was his desire to give it to them, and it was his desire afterwards to take it from them and give it to us. Is there any questions about what I read? Is it clear? It was God's intention in the very first place to give it to the Jewish people. So let's say now, 40 days before Mom and Dad conceived me, some other mom and dad, 40 days before their conception, before they had a relationship with a child, it was already destined by Hashem who would marry who. That's our belief. We believe that the destiny is when man, that when God takes a soul, the soul is two, male and female, in one. God splits the soul, gives the man his soul, the little boy his soul, the little girl her soul, and then they search the earth, right? And they come from Israel and the Philippines to find where they're supposed to go. Is that right, Owen? Is that right? He's not sure yet. He's sure yet? You better be sure. It's 3 months away. Right? We believe that God is everyone's destined for something. And the destiny is from the beginning. From when you're born, before you're born, 40 days before conception. Not before you're born, before conception, right? So we understand, and I guess maybe a person goes out with a person, a boy with a girl, and maybe the girl feels something special, or the boy feels something special, and they say, gee, I feel more connected to you, I feel really special, maybe I'd like to marry you. What you're basically saying is, I think you're my other half, right? And then you're connecting. But all this is predestined from the heavens, right? And the fact of the matter is that the marriage between the Jewish people and the land of Israel was predestined from creation, from the beginning. Do we see that? So actually, when Avram in our story, in our parsha this week, purchases Hebron and gives the money, right? It's like a marriage, which we talked about, right? In which he's given the money, like the man gives the ring, and the Jewish people are wedded to their land, to their bride, and all of a sudden, and all this was predestined. And Avram Avinu just all he did is confirm it all. And when the special boy or girl in your life meets you and you meet them, and all of a sudden you feel this kind of specialness, that's really what Avram felt about the land of Israel, especially when he got there in the Exodus 5. And that's why he felt so strongly about purchasing it. Alien and resident. The truth is, I'm a resident since creation. This is mine. You live here. Okay, you live there for a while, but it says over here, God gave the nations, the 7 nations, and whoever he decided fit. The entire earth belongs to God. He granted to whomever he deemed fit. It was his desire to give it to them, maybe to the Palestinians, whatever, and then it was his desire to take it away and give it to us. But that was because it was his design in the first place, at the beginning of creation. We all understand this. And so, destiny is destiny. We are destined for this country, for this land. 2,000 years, our people have wandered throughout the world. And all of a sudden, we have come home in this century. Where have you ever heard of people that were exiled and stayed alive and survived and even thrived despite all the persecution and get back to their own land, as we see in our own generation? It's amazing. But this is all predestined. Does this not convince you of God running the world? Doing how he wants it to be done? You feel that way when you stand under the chuppah with your beloved. Oh, wow, God, you made all this happen from all over the globe. It's hysterical. So we understand that this is all a reflection of Hashem's control, of Hashem running the world. And this is the sense of what Avram Avinu did in purchasing Hebron. It is mine. I am a resident here. I take control. This is predestined to me. So I'm an alien. The alien is because at the beginning of the world, God gave it to someone else. That was God's will. He did not want the Jewish people in Israel right away. He wanted them to go through the early dawns of their infancy, to go through the period of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to go into Mitzrayim, to be slaves, to become out strong, to go to Har Sinai, to get the Torah, and then to come back to Israel. And then coming back to Israel, you see, we say to the nations, we know you've been living here, and we respect that, but we're taking over. Because it's so predestined from the beginning of creation. And you may look upon us as aliens, and I'm sure the Arab population looked upon us back in 1948 as aliens, but we're taking over. We're taking control. And what Avram is saying is, alien means that you may think that of me, and maybe it's because I don't have full control right now, but I will have control. And therefore, I'm taking this much as control as of now. Years later will come, the Jewish people will march out of Egypt, go into Israel, under Joshua, conquer the whole thing. But in the meantime, for now, I'm taking this. Not as an alien, but rather as a resident. I'm not taking anything else right now because I'm still an alien. You're here.
Yes.
So when I see alien resident, it bothers me. It bothers me to the extent that I gotta think deep into this and figure this out. I can't sleep at night until I figure this out. But I think about it, and I hear it, and I sense it. I look at the commentaries. Listen, I can't take full credit. I didn't think this out. I looked at the commentaries. I don't want to cheat. I looked at Rashi, and then of course I came up with another question. You remember Lot, last week's parsha? And you remember that Lot and Avram had this argument because Avram didn't want him to stay because he was stealing. Why was he stealing? He was going into fields that didn't belong to him.
Yes.
So Lot defended it and said, well, listen, eventually it's going to be yours, and I'm your heir, so why can't I take it now? Avram said, no, it's stealing. Why is it this not stealing? Why is this not stealing? More than that. If I go to you and I say to you, I want that Chumash, and I'll pay you $45 for it. And that's your private favorite Chumash. It's yours. It's something, an heirloom in your family. Do I have a right to stuff that money right in your own? Do I have the right to stuff that money into your face and take that Chumash?
I think it's
Can I buy things by force?
No.
And the answer is no, I can't. Oh, yeah, hold on. That's work anymore. That's the best part. I can't take things by force. I can't force you to take something, to sell me something. Now I got you over a barrel. You're broke. You need money bad. I'm a pawnbroker. You're gonna give me your heirloom of your great grandfather because you need to pay your rent. That should be right. Should be not right. Right? Eventually, if you can pay me the money back, I have to give you that back, and I have to give it to you, and I have no right to keep it. I'm not allowed to it's not a legitimate purchase if you purchase something by force. Can I take the woman and say, you're mine? No, she has to agree.
Is it because he offered it for free?
The point is that, well, you could say that, but I think the key is that there has to be a sense inside you when to move with action, when not. Avram sensed that Lot was totally premature. It's not right. You don't have a right to anything now. We have no such message from God. We have a message to be here. We have a message to try and develop some sort of society or some sort of settlement or whatever. We have no right to be here as in control. And then one day Avram sees that Sarah passes away, and he senses God wants me to do this. God did not want Lot to take those fields. He was premature. And in fact, for me, Avram, at this point, to take more would be wrong. But this I should take. And this I should take. He offers it for free. I'm giving him the money, and it's mine forever. Yeah.
My question is that one other thing about when
I didn't do that.
when Abraham's servant came in, first thing he did when he seen Rebecca was unmuzzle the camels.
Right.
And I've heard that the reason that they muzzle the camels is that so on the way they don't steal from other people's properties.
You're right. So I think the important thing, the lesson to learn here, and with this will conclude, is that in fact, we're both aliens and residents. And my question to you, ladies and gentlemen, what about our position in Israel today? Are we residents? Are we aliens? Are we? That is my question. Today, year 2019 of the earth, year 5,780. Are we controlling Israel? Are we residents? Or are we truly aliens, maybe waiting for Mashiach to come? And the answer is really we're both. That's correct. Because you see, in a sense, perhaps our government is not moving with the same swiftness that our own moved. Do you feel that there's a sense of destiny right now? Final destiny? They move. If you're holding back and you're negotiating, I'll give your land back, I'll give you this, peace, schmeats, then you're not really taking control, are you? You're not really taking control. So you're an Israel. So Israelis don't really have a right to have control of the land unless
They take control.
they take it. Now, you feel that God's with you? Or maybe you don't because you're secular and you don't believe in God in the first place. And that puts Israel in great jeopardy, doesn't it?
Yes.
So really, we have to sense, we live in Messianic times, we should be trying our best to move forward in our love for Israel, our connection to Israel, our belief in Hebron. This whole parsha is here to make you feel that. You should try this Shabbat, as you celebrate this Shabbat, to feel the closeness to Hebron. Make believe, close your eyes, you're in Hebron, and you see the people singing and dancing and claiming the land is ours. When you sense that, you feel that, then you're ready to move forward. And each and every one of us do this on a personal level. Because over there, those 20,000 people are not, they're not negotiating for it. It's ours. There's no negotiations here. These people really mean it, really feel it, really believe it. If you were there and you saw this, you'd be moved. You'd say, wow, look at the sense of destiny these people have for their peoplehood, for their land, for their future, for the Messianic era and so forth. You really feel that. Now, I can only do my best in terms of trying to give you that feeling, sense it. I did spend a Shabbat in Hebron once. I never did spend it in the parsha like this parsha like I saw it. I pray to God one day I have that opportunity to do so. But just being there and going into a synagogue in which you're right next to the cave of the grave of Avram Avinu, Yitzchak Avinu, Sarah Avinu, Rivka Avinu, Jacob Avinu. I mean, what can you imagine the sense, the feeling of destiny, the feeling of connection? And that's
Yes.
huh?
You drown out the noise.
We don't even hear it. We don't even hear it. You know what? When we think about Arabs, it's dandruff. It's flick them off like a flea, right? Like a mosquito. I mean, sometimes they're stinging mosquitoes. You got to get rid of them for sure. But I think the idea is that we live in conflicting times. We live in times when we are both at the same time an alien and at the same time a resident. And I think people for themselves need to really sense this, to really sense if you're really looking towards the future and towards our destiny, not only individually with our family, but also as a people, that we should be very much identified with Israel and Israel's control of the land. Now you have a country that's so mixed up and so goofy that now it's having its third election in 6 months because they can't elect the government. Who's running the country, for God's sake? Who's running the place? Who's running the place? It's hysterical. So what are we learning from this? We're learning there's no one really taking the initiative, the vision. There's no blessing from Hashem in this. And it's amazing, by the way, that just at this point in time in crisis, is a time when the Israeli government came up with this plan to start buses running on Shabbat in Tel Aviv. 71 years this country is alive without buses in Tel Aviv, and now they're also moving to start. what they want to do is ruin the very foundation of our love for the land and love for our people, and that is the Shabbat itself. So when you think about it, when you think about so many of the leaders in New York, for instance, and Israel as well, great rabbinical leaders have called for people to strengthen their own personal Shabbat observance. So they came up with a couple of, I think 3 or 4 plans. One plan was that people should strive very much to light candles earlier than usual. That's the first plan they came up with. Just recently, this week. You want to strengthen Shabbat observance? If the candle lighting tomorrow is 4:28, light at 4:20. That was the first thing they came up with. Second thing they come up with is, let's not talk any secular business on Shabbat. Let's make sure our conversations purely are Torah. Thirdly, our table should be filled with singing, with zero, with great joy and spiritual feeling of the Shabbat. I think what the fourth one was, but that's the plan. The plan is to strengthen Shabbat. Maybe by our strengthening Shabbat, those plans for the buses to run will somehow or another fall apart. And again, we've seen that happen before. And so I think that really we talk about as a gateway to the world to come is Shabbat. A gateway to the world to come also is Eretz Yisrael. The sense of Eretz Yisrael is considered one of the 3 things that is acquired with great determination, great effort, and great strength and courage. That is, if you want to acquire Torah, if you want to acquire Israel, and you want to acquire a share in Olam Haba. It doesn't come easy. That's the point. When they put out for it, we put out for the Shabbat, we put out for Olam Haba, all of a sudden we get connected. Israel is a connection to Olam Haba because it's one of the 3 things that requires effort. Shabbat is a connection to Olam Haba, to the world to come. Why? Because we said Shabbat is 1/60th of a taste of the world to come. That's all it gets us there. What gets us to our destiny is the effort that's put behind it. So we've got to put the effort behind Shabbat, put the effort behind our love for Eretz Yisrael, and I think people should always remember that the opportunity remains to if you have an opportunity to maybe live in Eretz Yisrael, to make Aliyah to Eretz Yisrael, or at least to visit Eretz Yisrael. Those are things that should be in everyone's mind, everyone's plan. Now, if you want, hold the runway disappeared to over there. Hold it. It's a disappearing act of hold. Anyway, so he's a master magician, like Merlin, where you go? And anyway, where is he? Oh! And he reappeared. Yeah, Hold is inviting everyone to his wedding. It's on January 21st in Eretz Yisrael, in Haifa. And if you
Mazal tov.
Mazal tov.
His bride, who came over from the Philippines somehow or another. Remember, her parents, his parents, whatever they managed to have something planned, and that's the idea of a wedding in Eretz Yisrael. Anyway, I wish thank you everyone for coming. Hope that you all speed. Speed. Everyone, please start if you haven't.